Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us. Today, well, you might have heard the name Fernanda Torres floating around, especially with all this Oscar buzz.
Yeah, definitely a lot of people talking about her.
But Torres is honestly so much more than just, a nominee this year.
Oh, yeah.
She's been working for decades as an actress in Brazil, and now she's finally getting that global recognition.
It's really cool to see.
Yeah, it really is. And what makes this even more interesting is that she's 59 years old.
Wow, that is pretty incredible when you think about,
Yeah.
how ageist Hollywood can be.
Right. Like she's kind of turning all those typical ideas about, age and success in Hollywood right on its head.
It really makes you wonder about all those expectations.
Yeah, exactly. So today we're going to take a look at this amazing story using a really in-depth profile from Name of Publication.
Sounds good.
They go really deep into her career, her whole journey, but they focus especially on, that breakout role she had in I'm Still Here.
I'm really excited to talk about that film.
Me too. And basically today we want to kind of unpack what makes Torres' journey so unique and powerful.
Definitely.
And then also we want to talk about, I'm Still Here and the impact that it's had, and kind of zoom out and think about some of the bigger questions this all raises about international talent in Hollywood.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, it is. It's like, why did it take Hollywood so long
Right.
to recognize her?
Exactly.
So let's kind of start back at the beginning. Let's talk about her story. So, Fernanda Torres, she didn't just, pop out of nowhere. She comes from this incredible acting dynasty in Brazil. Her mother is Fernanda Montenegro,
Oh, wow.
who some of you might recognize because she was actually the first Brazilian woman ever nominated for a Best Actress Oscar.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so Torres basically, grew up surrounded by this world, the stage theater, and she had, the best possible mentor you could ask for.
That's amazing. Yeah, and I mean, Montenegro was a legend in Brazil, right? For both stage and screen. I mean, she's incredible.
Right. And what's so interesting to me, though, is that while Torres, obviously benefits from her mother's legacy, she's always really carved out her own path.
Yeah, she really has.
She didn't, rush her career or try to just ride those coattails.
Yeah.
She's been really steady choosing these roles that really challenged her and pushed her to grow as an artist.
It makes her recent success even more impressive.
I think so, too.
It's the result of years and years of hard work and dedication.
Yeah, and it also makes me wonder if that patience that she's had is part of what makes her so relatable now.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's this nice reminder that, fulfilling careers, they don't always have to be about instant fame.
Right.
Sometimes it's that slow burn that leads to something even brighter,
Absolutely. And I think that kind of leads us perfectly into I'm Still Here, which is, like you said, the film that really catapulted her onto this international scene.
Yeah.
And it's a biographical drama based on the memoir of Marcelo Rubens Paiva, and it's set in 1970s Brazil, during this really dark period in their history, a military dictatorship.
Right, and to understand the weight of that setting, I think we have to remember, what that really meant. It wasn't just, a political shift.
Right.
It was this time of intense repression where people who spoke out, like journalists, activists, even artists, were targeted.
Yeah.
And they would sometimes just, disappear.
That's terrifying.
It really is.
Yeah.
So it's not just a historical drama. It's about, personal resilience in the face of this unbelievable political turmoil.
Exactly. And so Torres, in this film, she plays Eunice Paiva, this housewife whose husband is a former congressman. Then suddenly he becomes one of the disappeared.
Right. And it just shatters her life.
It really does.
Yeah.
It's devastating. And what's so interesting is that we learn in the article that to prepare for this role, Torres actually listened to this playlist of Ella Fitzgerald love songs.
Wow, that's such a unique approach. Why do you think she did that?
I think she was trying to connect with Eunice's past, before the dictatorship, before all the trauma. Those love songs, they probably represent this time of joy and innocence. And that kind of grounds her emotional journey in a way.
Oh, I see what you mean. It makes the contrast even more powerful then.
Exactly. And it makes you realize, how much thought goes into these performances.
Yeah.
It's not just about showing up and saying the lines. It's really about inhabiting this whole emotional world.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And clearly, that dedication paid off because Still became this huge phenomenon in Brazil.
Yeah, it really did.
The highest grossing film they had after the pandemic.
Which is incredible.
Right. It clearly struck a chord with people there.
Oh, definitely. I think you're right that part of the film's power comes from the fact that it's exploring this really difficult period.
Yeah.
And it's probably bringing up all these collective memories and emotions.
Right, and now all of this success has launched Torres, onto this global stage, and the article describes her as navigating this fame with this mix of composure, but also this kind of bemused enthusiasm.
I love that word. It's like
Perfect, right?
she's enjoying it, but also finds it surreal.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's like she can't quite believe it's happening.
There's this quote that captures it perfectly. She says, "It's always good when the dark horse wins."
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Like, she knows she's talented,
Yeah.
but she's not letting it go to her head.
I love that it makes her seem so down to earth,
Even in Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly. And remember when she won the Golden Globe?
Oh, yeah.
Her speech was so great.
It was so genuine.
She just said, "I didn't prepare anything because I was glad already."
Yeah.
It was so humble and real.
You don't see that a lot in Hollywood.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And I think that might be part of what's drawing people to her.
It's so refreshing.
Yeah.
Sure.
And on top of all that, she's nominated for a Best Actress Oscar,
Wow.
which is huge.
Yeah.
Not just for Torres,
Right.
but for Brazilian cinema in general.
Absolutely. This recognition really puts a spotlight on all this talent that exists outside of, those traditional Hollywood circles.
It really does. It's
Yeah.
like a reminder that sometimes the best stories, the most powerful performances,
Yeah.
they come from places we least expect.
Exactly.
But it also kind of makes me wonder, does Hollywood have this kind of blind spot when it comes to international talent?
That's a great question, and one we'll definitely dig into more after the break. But for now, I think it's important to just take a step back and really appreciate what Fernanda Torres has accomplished. I mean, her story is just amazing.
It really is.
A testament to perseverance, dedication, and just the power of authentic storytelling.
I completely agree.
Before the break, we were talking about whether Hollywood might overlook international talent.
Yeah, it's a question that's been on my mind. Torres' success makes you wonder, are there all these amazing artists out there
Right.
who are just as good but haven't gotten the same chances? But because they're not, in that Hollywood system.
That's a good point. It's easy to get caught up in the big names and the familiar stories
Yeah.
and forget about all the unique voices and perspectives that come from different cultures and backgrounds.
Totally. And the article actually mentions this. They talk about how when Torres was asked if she felt intimidated by the other nominees for the Golden Globes,
Oh, yeah.
because it was like a really big group with some major Hollywood stars.
I remember that.
And she just said, "We do the same job. They're actors like me."
That's so cool. It says a lot about her confidence.
Right. It's like she's not letting the glitz and glamour of Hollywood define her
Yeah.
or make her feel less than.
Like she's saying talent is talent no matter where you're from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's so refreshing to hear that.
It really is.
Yeah.
Especially in an industry that can be so obsessed with status and hierarchy.
Totally. And it goes back to that idea that, art can transcend borders and all these industry walls.
Yeah.
Like, we're all connected by our shared humanity, our passion for storytelling,
Absolutely.
our desire to create things that move and inspire.
And Torres is definitely a master storyteller. I mean, the article describes her performance, and I'm Still Here, as a living, breathing tribute to resilience.
Wow, that's powerful.
It really is. It speaks to the depth of her portrayal.
Of Eunice Paiva.
Of Eunice, exactly. And it's important to remember, she endures so much loss and hardship during this brutal dictatorship.
Yeah.
Her husband is taken, and she's just left in this world of fear and uncertainty,
Right.
not knowing if she'll ever see him again or even what happened to him.
That's a terrifying reality that so many people faced back then.
It is. The article talks about the paranoia, the constant threat of violence,
Right.
people being silenced for speaking out.
And in the middle of all that,
Yeah.
Eunice finds the strength to fight back.
I know, it's incredible.
Yeah.
She refuses to be silenced. She becomes an advocate. She demands answers and challenges the regime's brutality.
The article says she never fell to pieces and that her smile was her weapon.
Wow,
I mean, what an image.
that's so powerful.
It speaks to that resilience of the human spirit.
It really does. And I wonder if that detail resonated with Brazilian audiences in particular.
Oh, I bet it did.
Yeah.
For those who lived through that time,
Right.
Eunice's story could be seen as this reflection of their own struggles,
Yeah.
their own resilience. Her smile, this refusal to be broken,
Yeah.
it symbolizes the spirit of those who resisted.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope can persist,
Yeah.
often in the most unexpected ways.
And And it's Torres's ability to convey that complexity,
Yeah,
that blend of strength and vulnerability that makes her performance so captivating.
totally. It speaks to her talent, but also to her deep understanding of the character.
Yeah.
The article mentions how she drew on her own memories of growing up in Rio in the 70s
Oh, wow.
to prepare for the role. And she did all this research about the period, the political climate, the personal stories of people who were there.
That's incredible.
It's more than just acting. It's about inhabiting a world,
Yeah.
understanding motivations and fears, and
Yeah.
making it all feel real.
Right. And you can see that authenticity in her performance.
Yeah.
It's what makes audiences connect with Eunice and feel the weight of her journey.
It's what great acting is all about.
Right.
Transporting us to another place, making us feel deeply,
Exactly.
helping us understand the human experience in new ways.
And Torres does that masterfully.
She does. And this kind of brings us back to that question of Hollywood and international talent.
Yeah.
The article asks, why does it often take so long for Hollywood to embrace actors like Torres?
Right.
Why do we underestimate artists who have honed their craft outside the mainstream?
There's this bias, this preference for what's familiar and comfortable over what might challenge us or, broaden our perspectives.
Maybe it has to do with marketability and, box office appeal.
Yeah, maybe. You're saying it's a business decision more than anything.
It could be.
That's kind of sad, though, isn't it?
It is, but it's still a problem. By prioritizing established stars and those same old narratives, Hollywood is limiting its own creative potential and perpetuating this cycle of exclusion.
Yeah, it's like we're missing out on this whole universe of stories and talent
Exactly.
just because they don't fit into some predetermined mold.
And that's why Torres's story is so important. It challenges those assumptions and creates space for more representation and inclusivity.
It's been so interesting talking about how Hollywood sometimes has this narrow view of talent.
Yeah,
And Fernanda Torres is such a great example of, how wrong that can be.
absolutely. I mean, her story really shows that talent has no borders.
Yeah, and it challenges that whole idea that there's like a time limit on success.
Right.
It's so inspiring to see someone achieve this kind of recognition
Yeah.
at 59,
Yeah.
especially in an industry that's so fixated on youth.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that it's never too late.
Right.
You can always make your mark.
Exactly. And Torres's journey is a testament to that,
Yeah.
to perseverance, to sticking to your vision. She didn't chase fame. She didn't compromise.
And in the end, her talent won out. It's a good lesson for anyone on a creative path.
It really is. It also makes me think about, how film can reach people all over the world.
Yeah.
We talked about how I'm Still Here, Sure was so popular in Brazil, the highest grossing film after the pandemic.
Yeah. It's incredible.
What do you think it was about that story that really connected with people?
Well, you have to remember, the film is set during a very specific time,
Yeah.
the military dictatorship,
Right.
which was a period of huge upheaval.
Yeah.
And a lot of those scars haven't healed.
I see what you mean. So for people who lived through that,
Yeah.
it must brought up a lot of memories and emotions.
Exactly. Like a way to process those experiences.
Right.
They have a conversation about the past.
And Torres herself, being such a well-known figure in Brazil, probably makes that connection even stronger.
Oh, definitely. She brings a certain authenticity to the role,
Yeah.
a cultural understanding.
It's like she's not an outsider looking in.
Right. She's part of the
Yep.
society.
And that makes a difference.
It really does. And it makes you think about how film can connect generations, help younger audiences understand their history in a really powerful way.
It's a way to build empathy and understanding.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it shows how important it is to tell these stories.
Right, to share them with the world.
Exactly.
And that kind of brings us back to Hollywood
Yeah.
and their role in promoting international voices. If stories like I'm Still Here can have such an impact,
Right.
shouldn't we be seeing more films from all over the world?
I completely agree. I mean, we have to move past this idea that Hollywood is the only place where great frames come from.
Like we're limiting ourselves.
Exactly. There are amazing stories everywhere.
Right.
And we need more ways to share them.
So what do you think a more inclusive film world would look like?
Well, for one thing, more diversity in the stories being told. And who's telling them?
Right.
We need films that challenge us, make us think differently, introduce us to new perspectives. And we have to support those filmmakers.
Yeah.
Give them the resources and the platforms they need.
So it's not just about recognizing the things we all share as humans,
Right.
but also celebrating those unique cultural differences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A more collaborative film world.
Yeah.
Where artists from everywhere can come together.
I love that idea.
Oh.
And, Fernanda Torres' story is a sign that this is possible.
It is. It shows what can happen when you have talent and dedication and you stay true to yourself.
Yeah, it's a challenge to Hollywood to open up,
Yeah.
to embrace all the amazing things happening in global cinema.
It's a reminder to all of us to be curious,
Yeah,
to seek out different films, support those artists who are pushing boundaries.
I love that.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect note to end on.
Yeah.
So thank you all so much for joining us for this deep dive into Fernanda Torres and this bigger conversation about representation in film.
Oh.
Hope you enjoyed it.